We are going to discuss configuring DHCP server, DHCP settings in router, also setting DNS, DNS configuration in the router, checking Cisco Discovery Protocol, configuring things like that, and also we'll go through some IP troubleshooting basics. So let's start our discussion. And we are starting with DHCP configurations. Let me get into the scenario. Okay, so this is the scenario I'm going to configure. Well, we have discussed DHCP while discussing our TCP IP model under first section. So under first section, well, now under this visual, at first I'm going to configure DHCP server settings under the router, where I'll configure the subnet mask, default router, things like that, saving the configuration. Then I'll show you how DHCP client picks the IP address from the server. So this is the scenario. My PC is connected through Ethernet ports with the router, and let's go to router, configure such settings. Okay, now I am on my router, which is connected to my PC, and let's go to global configuration mode, where I am going to configure DHCP server settings here. So what is the command to configure DHCP here? It is IP DHCP. It is DHCP pool, and you have to enter a pool name here. So I'm going to enter its visual. Now you can see here we are under DHCP configuration mode, and now we have to enter the network which we are going to use as dynamically. It is network 10.10.10.0 with subnet mask of 255.255. It is class C subnet mask, and enter. This network is already configured, so I'm using this network. Further, I'm going to mention a default router, which is the same router. Default router, enter the default router and the IP address. The IP address of the default router is 10.10.10.1. Enter. Almost done. Now I have to exclude this IP address from DHCP range. So this is not going to happen under this mode. I have to get off this global this DHCP configuration mode. Now what I have to do is IP DHCP excluded address, and I have to exclude this address. Okay, now things are almost done. Now I'm going to my PC right now. Let me save these configurations. Copy running configuration to startup configuration, and things are almost done. Well, let me tell you, I have already configured IP address 10.10.10.1 on my Ethernet interface, as we are using in our previous visual. Let me show IP interface brief, and you can see the IP address is configured here, and things are working up and up. Okay, so let me go to my PC settings, show you how it picks the IP address. Okay, now this is my LAN settings of the PC, which is connected to the router. Here you can see I configured this IP address 10.10.10.2 manually, and I can show you it is pinging correctly, ping 10.10.10.1. so it is pinging its server, the router, correctly. Things are working. Now let me go to its configurations here in the TCP IP internet protocol. Just obtain an IP address. Check this option, obtain an IP address automatically, this one also. And I'll show you while configure under DHCP configuration mode. There is also option of setting DNS server. Let me show you a bit later. So press OK here, click OK. and now things are working. Now you can see this address type is working dynamically. This address is now assigned by DHCP, which is the server router providing. Okay, now close it down there. Ping will work also. Now this is how we configure our DHCP server on the router. So let me back to show you the DNS configuration command there in the DHCP configuration. Okay, here you can see I am under DHCP configuration mode, and let me mark question mark. Let me enter question mark here. Again, you can see we have used this command default router for telling the configurations about the default router, and this is the command for DNS server. You can just enter this command here and enter the IP address of the DNS server. Well, DNS server is not configured under my this visual settings or configuration scenarios, but I'll show you its configurations, DNS configurations a bit later. Now we are moving towards troubleshooting and setting of IP addresses using command line and some tracing IP addresses and things like that. Okay, we have checked the ping command by pinging the server here. There is another command, useful command, which is trace RT. Trace RT traces the route till destination. Well, determines or tells you that how many hops are in between you and your destination. Like I am tracing the router which is directly connected, and you can see it traced in 1 millisecond because it is directly connected. Trace RT, you can trace your network which is 4 hops away, 5 hops away, just checking the troubleshooting for troubleshooting purposes, checking link failure, things like that. You can trace RT, some big websites, and for checking purposes, things like that. Mostly used for troubleshooting. Very useful command. You can perform this command from router also, but from router the command is trace route. It is not RT, it is ROUTE. Things are same, rest of the things are same, and same command you can use under Linux operating systems also. Very useful. Okay, now you can check your IP configurations from DOS by IP config. It will give you brief IP configuration. It will show you brief IP configuration, like my IP address is dynamically learned IP address from the server. It is 10.10.10.2 subnet mask default gateway. Now there is another command, ipconfig/all. It gives kind of detailed configurations, like you can see here with this physical address. DHCP is enabled, auto configuration is enabled, IP address is this one, and default gateway this one. The DHCP server is also the one which we're using. It is our router, and further you can see the whole explanation of this Ethernet. Well, under Linux operating system, the command which is used under terminals is not ipconfig. The command is ifconfig, which is not going to work here. It is ifconfig. You can use this command for checking your IP configurations under Linux operating system. Useful command. And further, I think almost done. Trace our route, and you can also telnet from your DOS prompt also for configuring your router. I'm not going to do it. I think let's do it. 10.10.10.1. Connecting to my connection failed, could not open the host on port. Maybe there is some settings I've configured on the router, and for allowing the router, if you remember, I've configured the access list there, and the IP address which is requesting such connectivity through V2I line is 10.10.10.2, and I allowed, I think it is 192.168, something like that. Okay, now let's see for trouble. While in time of trouble, failure, pings fail, or pinging fails, or thing like that, from where we start our troubleshooting process. Well, before going to start our troubleshooting process, let me show you. So this is the access control list which I have configured. I have configured on my router. This IP address is permitted, only this IP address, and under VTWM mode you can see only this IP address is allowed. So this is the reason 10.10.10.2 was denied to access the router from DOS prompt I showed you while I was telnetting. So let's go to the scenario of troubleshooting. Well, this is the scenario. We are under PCA and we are unable to ping to get connectivity to this server. So what is the problem there? We have to analyze and troubleshoot the network. Well, first of all, we will look at that PC's hardware things are working properly by pinging the loopback address 127.0.0.1, and after that I will ping my PC IP address, physical IP address, which is 10.10.10.2, which will determine the things are working under until my PC. After that I will ping my default gateway. This router A's IP address is the default gateway, while this pinging will tell me that connectivity between this PC A to router A is okay. Now, finally, at the third step, for example, if ping fails anytime, just determine the problem is there. Okay, till now we have pinged the router, and at third step I will ping the remote router, which is 10.0.2.1. If ping is working there, it means everything is working and things are working properly. And if ping fails, if you're pinging a remote router and ping is not working, it's timeout, request timeout, things like that happening. So it means the link between the connectivity between router A and router B is something, it is failed, or some physical problem there, or something is happening. So we have to determine all these things. So pinging is a tool for troubleshooting the network. So we start from the basic, just quick review. You have to determine first to check your physical IP address of PCs and hardware installation, are things are working properly. After that, just ping your default gateway. It will tell you that your connectivity is established between you and your default gateway. And third step, you will ping your remote gateway, remote network, remote destination to your destination. It will tell you that where the problem exists. So it really helps. Let's just assume this scenario. Let me go to DOS prompt there and we start pinging. Okay, I am on my DOS prompt. First of all, I'm going to ping my loopback, my 127.0.0.1. It is working, means hardware software installation, things like that, it working, and network installation and basic things which require to be installed. After that, I'm pinging the IP address of my physical interface. Okay, now let's ping my physical IP address, which is 10.10.10.2. It is also working, so everything is working under my PC and under my PC. My PC is configured correctly. Let's ping the default gateway. Will tell me that I have connectivity with my default gateway. Yes, it is telling me that yes, you have connectivity with your default gateway. And the final step to ping the remote network. Well, remote network is not configured here. I was showing you scenario, assumed scenario, so it will really not work. Even then, let me ping 10.0.2.1. It will not destination host unreachable because such destination does not exist. Okay, now this is how we troubleshoot the network. We shoot the troubles in the network. Just do not drop the basics. Do not leave the basics. Start from the beginning, and you're up. So ping is a tool of your troubleshooting, and you can just cover and recover things with this tool. Okay, we are almost done with IP troubleshooting. Now let's move towards CDP, and there is a scenario. So let's go to the scenario. After that, we'll cover DNS and things like that. Okay, here is a scenario to understand CDP. CDP means Cisco Discovery Protocol. Well, there is a device directly connected with the router. It is the switch which is connected to the router. Well, I really require the information of this connected device because I need to access that device and have to make some configurations. For such scenario, there is a protocol which is known as Cisco Discovery Protocol, as I told you. This protocol will tell me that this devices are connected to the router. This is the version of iOS is installed on that directly connected device. It's some more useful information which will help me to sort out problems like telling me the IP address of the switch so that I can telnet to that switch and make some configurations. Well, Cisco Discovery Protocol provides its services to only Cisco devices. It is the Cisco proprietary protocol. By default, Cisco Discovery Protocol works for Cisco devices. It is enabled by default, and I'll show you the commands which is enabled, and we can disable also. We can disable those configurations also. Each Cisco Discovery Protocol configured device sends advertisements to a multicast address. In response to these advertisements, each CDP configured device listens these advertisements, thus getting the information of the device, information regarding iOS, IP addresses, etc. Well, these advertisements are sent periodically. After receiving the information of the neighboring device, this received information is kept by the receiving device for a specified time. This specified time is specified by hold down timers. So let's go to my router and see by entering such CDP commands regarding the information of this switch. Okay, now I am on my router. I'm going to, actually by default CDP is enabled globally, but even then I'm going to show the settings. Go to your global configuration mode and CDP run. It makes CDP globally run. If you want to disable, you just go there, enter no at start, and things will work. I'm not going to do this. After that, you can disable your CDP globally and enable it on each interface basis. Now let me go to the interface and show you how we can configure CDP on our interfaces. Okay, here and in this interface, just enter CDP enable and your CDP is enabled on this interface. If you do not want, just enter no at here at the first. You can disable your CDP function on this interface. Well, okay, this is how we configure CDP. Now let's see CDP settings. CDP by entering. Let's see CDP devices, information of connected devices. With the help of CDP, just enter show CDP neighbors. CDP is not enabled, sorry, I disabled the CDP on my interface. Let me go to configure it again. How it will run. Okay, now let's send some hold down and some CDP messages and things like that. Okay, now it is receiving CDP advertisements. You can see the device which is connected to our router is switch, and this is our router's Ethernet interface. This is our local interface. Hold on timer 178. Capability is S. You can see is switch. and I is IGMP, you can see here, and the platform is WSC2950, and the port through which our router, the port of the remote device, the port of the connected device is fast Ethernet 0/1. So this command provides quite good information. There's another command, show CDP neighbors detail. Now more than good, you can see here device ID. This is the switch IP address, and this is the interface of our router through which the switch is connected. This is the outgoing port, outgoing interface of the switch. Our router is connected to switch fast Ethernet 01 port, and it is showing the version of the Cisco Internet Working Operating System. This is the switch operating system, switch iOS operating system. And now this is quite more detailed, and with the help of this information like IP address, I can now telnet to my switch just by entering the IP address here. This is where we use this is the reason why we use CDP, trying to get to the switch. And now we are on the switch, and we must know the passwords also. If we do not know the password, then we have to perform such password tasks which we have gone through of router and switch. So just log out from that switch, and this is how we use CDP. So there are some more commands of CDP. Let me show you. Like show CDP interfaces, you can see it's showing the interface Ethernet 00 up and up. And another command is show CDP traffic, you can check the traffic also. Okay, total packets output 65, input 11, CDP version 1 advertisement, it is actually using CDP version 2, you can see here. Let me highlight. Okay, now you can see here, and a few more commands for CDP is you can show CDP CDP, let me question mark here, entry, interface, neighbors and traffic. We have checked those one. Entry, let me check the entry here, show CDP, and it is incomplete command, put the question mark. Static and protocol and versions, you can see protocol, it is IP address is IP is the protocol of the switch, and further check the version, it is showing the version of the switch iOS. You can see here this is the version of the switch iOS 12.1.13 EA1. So now very ideal thing to do. And one thing I would like to mention here, that this CDP feature must be enabled on all the devices, on both, like it is enabled on my router and it is enabled on switch also. So this is the reason why it is working. I can perform this function from the switch also, and if it is not enabled on any device, so that device will not the part, so that device is saying that I am not telling you the information of mine. So this is important to know, and this is how we use CDP. Now let's move towards as I mentioned here, I was telnetting to the switch by just simple entering the IP address, but I can add the host name of the switch, so that whenever I enter the host name, like this host name, right now this is not translating, this is not finding the host name, because the router do not know who switch is. So if I add this switch as a host name, whenever I'm going to enter this switch, but I'm going to access to that switch. So there is a command to do such operation. Let me finish this up, it will take a bit time. It is a kind of manual resolving of host names. So it is IP. Let me go to the global configuration mode. It is IP host. Hostname is switch, and the IP address is 10.10.2. It is added now. Let me copy running config to startup config. Okay, it is copying now. When I'm going to enter switch this time, not IP address, and the router knows that this switch belongs to that IP address. Let me enter switch, and you can see here. So this is where we use these functions of host names. But just imagine that there is a huge number of devices which are connected, and you are you do not want to enter every time IP address to access that device, and you require to enter those host names manually. It will take a lot of time just by using, for example. So for these purposes, we can configure DNS on the router, on the device from where you want to resolve the names, and in that purpose you do not require to configure such commands manually. Just enter the host name, press enter, you're going to get the access. But for this purpose you must have DNS server configured. In my scenario, I have not configured the DNS server, but I'm going to tell you how to configure such settings. For example, you configure your PC as a DNS server, and you know the IP address. Now you're going to enter that DNS server, so will work for resolving the names for your support. So let me show you such settings of DNS. Okay, so go to global configuration mode, and the first command is IP domain dash lookup. Okay, well, I think it is enabled by default, but even then enable this command IP domain dash lookup. Second command is to tell about who is your DNS server. In my case, there is no DNS server. Even then, I'm entering an IP address here, 10.10.10.3. Enter here. The final is you have to enter a domain name by using this command IP domain dash name. Anything you want to. In my case, visuals.com or visualstraining.com. Okay, things are working, and if your domain name, this one, is working correctly, then just enter any name and you are going to get the access. For example, my switch is I have configured manually, so it is going to access. For example, just there is another switch which is named as switch 1. I am going to enter this one, so with the help of DNS server I am going to access that switch. Exactly, it will resolve the domain name, resolve the host name actually, in just like that we have doing for our switch, while I added the manual host name so that it resolved. So this is how we use DNS server, and these were the settings. The three commands: IP domain dash lookup, which is normally enabled by default. A second command is to enter the IP address of the domain name server, DNS server. It, I think, allows almost 6 domain name DNS servers. Let me show you that command again. IP name dash server. Yes, maximum of 6. You can see here domain name servers. So I've entered that one. You can mostly we entered more than 2 or 3. In case if one fails, the second will perform the function. Same function works as a backup. So, and final third command is IP domain dash name. It must be entered. And finally you have configured your DNS. Well, this IP domain name command attach the domain name with the host name we usually mess with, or things like that. So these are the settings of DNS, 3 commands, and that's it. Okay, we are almost done with our topics. There is another command which is used to see the current sessions. It is source sessions, no connections are open, so this is why it's not showing any sessions. For example, if I'm going to the switch here, which is this one, and so I've opened the session here, and okay, now it is working, and okay, I am on switch and logging out. Now the session is over. So this is another command used for just viewing the configurations and things like that. We are almost done. Show sessions. We have seen some CDP commands and DHCP, DNS configurations and scenarios of troubleshooting. So let's conclude the visual. Okay, we were on this scenario. We were checking the CDP, Cisco Discovery Protocol, and now finally we covered DNS also. With this, I am concluding this visuals. We have almost done with setting DHCP, DNS, CDP, troubleshooting, configuring dynamically IP addresses, some show commands. If you feel any problem, just replay these visuals and be prepared for upcoming visuals. Thank you.